But my mind, I was in this mode of almost like a mental addiction is how I would probably code it. Where mentally, I could not. It was like an alcoholic who needs a drink.
Yeah.
Is how I felt. And at the time you don't see yourself that way, but as you slowly do better, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're kind of like, why am I telling myself that I need this pill to go to sleep?
Right.
Why am I? But there was a process that I learned here, the techniques that we did, that I think really helped out with that. Yeah. And I think from a mental standpoint, when you see a little bit of improvement,
yeah,
you're heading toward the finish line, and so it's easier to get there when you see that, when you feel that improvement.
Yeah.
And so to just stop it and not take it, there's no way. I mean, I would try.
Yeah. And what happened? So you would try like one night cutting it down or not taking it, and what would happen?
Well, a good example is, I may have told you this before, but my wife and I, earlier this summer, we went on vacation. We took a red-eye flight out of Denver. So I was up all day, got up to work, went to work, came home, picked her up, went to Denver, flew out at midnight, on the plane to head to Miami to go to the Dominican Republic area.
Okay. Just the two of you?
Just the two of us.
No kiddos?
No kids.
Okay.
I got nothing going on stress-wise as far as business. Everything's fine. Everything's good. So I get on the plane, and immediately you start saying to yourself, you can't take your medications, so you can't sleep. So I was, I think, the only person up on the plane all night from Denver to Miami.
Yeah.
I couldn't even close my eyes. Went to, got off the plane, left there at 11 o'clock their time in the afternoon. So I've been up at that point well over 24 hours.
Yeah.
Got in, so we landed in Dominican around 3 or 4 in the afternoon there. So I went to go to bed at about 9 o'clock that night. And I said, I'm not going to take a pill, because I've been up forever. So I think I'll probably just sleep. I wouldn't do great. And so I fell asleep, like I was out. I took the pill, I was out. Woke up an hour later, wide awake, so I got an hour's sleep, being up for probably 40 hours or something like that.
Right.
So it was so I had to take a pill. I had to take my trazodone and go back to sleep.
And what did that mean for you, that experience? Like, what were the thoughts that came up when you'd been up for whatever it was, 40 hours or so, and then you tried to sleep and you all you could get out of that was an hour without a pill?
It told me, I think that was my, like when I looked in the mirror, I knew at that point that something's not right, because I'm on vacation, I'm relaxed, I'm not stressed, yet I'm telling myself that I have to have this pill to sleep. And so that's when I knew that when I got back from that trip, is when I went to the sleep doctor.
Yeah.
Said, hey, I need to get off this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a life-changing event when you have to break up your pill and take 3/4 of it.
So,
because you worry that, am I going to sleep tonight?
Right. Right. As soon as you start to just shave a sliver off of that pill, all of a sudden, am I going to sleep tonight?
Right.
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 Right. And so we walked this process. It's it's a pretty standard process where we have you reduce the medications a little bit at a time. We give you these tools to kind of strengthen your natural sleep system. We give you some information that hopefully can break down some of that mindset that's causing you to stay dependent on them. And so we did, we started that process, and what happened for you?
You gain confidence, I think. For me, I gained like this mental confidence where you know, it's a cycle. Initially you go through this change of, you know, having to get up out of bed. You still wake up at 2 or 3 a.m., whatever time, you know. I lay back down, I wait for, 30 minutes or whatever. Then if I'm still not I get up, I go out of the room, I do, and so it takes time to work through that process in months. I mean, a few months, from the beginning of when you first take your, dropping your dose all the way to the end, there's this process. But I think when I got down to a 1/4 milligram, it was just this tiny, it wasn't even, you could barely see it. That's kind of, from a mental standpoint, I think mentally I was able to really evaluate and tell myself, why am I, this is it, I'm here.
Right.
Why am I taking this 1/4 milligram?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? I think I can do it. And so, but I think the techniques have a lot to do with it. It really does,
Yeah.
So, but it's a lot of it's mental.
The fears that, like that part, as far as it being partly a mental dependence or a mental addiction, oftentimes when we start to even talk about making changes in the medication, let alone actually doing it, there's these fears that start to come up. Did any of those fears actually kind of rear their ugly head as we went through the process for you? Did they come true?
There were times when, so if I had a night where I just didn't do well sleeping, the next night, from a mental standpoint, right at the beginning, it was easy to say to myself, oh, well, I'll just take a full milligram, because I didn't sleep good the night before,
So I better take the higher dose now.
because now I need to do better or something like that. And I never did, but your initial thought process is, well, I'll just take a milligram.
That temptation is there.
The
right.
temptation's there.
What are the main things that you think made you successful? Because you've now been off of, you're completely free of these medications for a month, a little more than a month.
Right.
And what do you think helped you go from not sleeping that great and dependent on these medications to now really sleeping what's essentially normally without medication? So how did that happen?
So a few things. There's a few things I think involved with that. One is the techniques that I've learned here, making sure that I don't go to bed at 8 o'clock at night. Sure. And that I've learned from a mental and physical standpoint that I go to bed when my body is ready to go to sleep, and not just, well, my wife went to bed at 9, so I need to go to bed.
Sure.
The whole house is asleep, so I should be sleeping too. And so now I go to bed when my body's tired, when I feel tired, and I try to prevent myself from doing activities from a mental standpoint or physical, either way, because I just know who I am.
Sure.
I try to prevent myself from doing some type of stressful type stuff, whether it's working on the computer at home, those types of things. And so if I do those things, I will usually do it in the early afternoon, but from when dinner hits through, it's more, I'm in a different zone. I don't go back in the office and sit down and do stuff. I stay out of the office at that point. I sit down and watch TV with the kids or do whatever. Sure. That's kind of my routine, I think.
Is this something that you feel like you could have done on your own? Kind of gotten off of these things and been able to? Why not?
There's no way. Because I was in this, I was in this different mindset. I was in this, when you're in this mindset of years and years of work and anxiety and not sleeping, everything's about you. The whole world, everybody is working around you.
Yeah.
You're the one that, you're the problem, and you're the only one that can fix it. And so I was not ready from a mental standpoint. even with my first therapist, even when I left him, even when he said, Mike, your anxiety seems to be under control, you know, it was still there. Anxiety was still, you know, still there.
Sure.
It's just how you deal with it.
Right.
And how you see it, how you approach it.
Right.
And so, you know, there's no way. I mean, I needed some professionals to be able to look at me and say, you know, this is normal. This is, you know, we see 100 million every year.
Sure.
And,
sure.
you know, this is the reason why. This is what you need to do.
We understand this, and we know how to walk you out of it.
Yeah, I needed somebody to point me in the right direction and say, Mike, this is what you need to do in order to get off these medications.
Yeah.
And to start sleeping better.
Do you feel like this process of you kind of learning to manage your own sleep and be able to walk down off of the medications, is it about what you expected? Was it different than what you expected to happen?
You know, I didn't know what to expect. You know, I mean, my first initial reaction was, we're changing medications again. Great. Here's another 3 months of, you know, not sleeping, or I'll either be way knocked out or not sleeping at all. There's no in between. So that was my first initial reaction was, well, we're changing medication again. This is good, you know? So for me, I really didn't know what to expect. And then, you know, my first initial fear was, okay, Mike, here's your sleep schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want you to stay till 11.
Yeah.
And be out of bed by 6:30, out of bed.
Sure.
Up and out. Then my first initial reaction was fear, because it was like, oh great, now I'm gonna go from 11 to 2.
Less time in bed means I'm gonna sleep even less.
You know, I only get 3 hours of, you know, 11 to 2 instead of, you know, but,
Is that what happened?
But, you know, I mean, initially, but then it didn't take long for your body, you know, you start adjusting and getting used to it.
Yeah.
You know, but, yeah, at first that was my initial expectation as well. I guess I'm going to get 2 or 3 hours of sleep.
Right.
Yeah. So, no, it's been good.
Good.
It's been great.
Well, I mean, there were several points in this process for you that you could have just abandoned ship and stopped seeking help.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you were on the, you know, you went from your doctor and then to a therapist and then to a sleep specialist and then over to here. I mean, you know, I think your success and where you're at now, where your anxiety's under control, maybe even hardly even existent now,
Right.
You're sleeping normally, you're off these medications. I mean, I think that's just a sign of your persistence.
Right.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. And I think, you know, there was a point where your mindset changed about your work and your family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you say, wait a minute here, my life is not going to be consumed by my work anymore.
Right, and a lot of that came down to, you know, I learned a lot with my therapist, you know, the cognitive behavioral type stuff. But, you know, when my brother passed away and things like that, I you know, business is business. And so I've, you know, it's a mindset, and it's not, every day is not that way. I mean, there are days when stress overwhelms you every day.
Sure.
You know, but that's normal.
That's life.
That's life. That's normal. But when you're in the mood of being that stressed, you don't know any different. You just think, well, this is just life, and it's always going to be this way. And the reality is that it's not. It doesn't have to be that way. And that you're gonna have days when you're gonna be stressed. But you know what? If I have more days throughout the week that are better than a stressful day, then I'm doing it.
Right.
And that's my mindset. Everything's temporary.
Yeah.
And it gets easier, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm at.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I'm just happy to see where you're at, you know, having gone through this process and having broken that, you know, like you said, that mental addiction. And I mean, in reality, for probably 90% of the people that I work with, that's the harder part to break. You know, the physical part of depending on these medications is short term. It only lasts a few days or a week or something like that. It's the way that this kind of gets into your head. That's hard to change. And you've really just attacked that head on.
Right.
And I think that's partially why you've been so successful, is really taking that mindset piece seriously. And I think you're scheduled to join the mindfulness and stress training. Maybe it's maybe only 10 days away or something. And I think that's going to be the next thing that just takes you that next level in terms of really having choice about what's going on in your mind and how you relate to the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know.
Right.
So
yeah, I met a friend of ours a couple years ago, and I told, I was telling her what medications I was on, and she said, Mike, you need to do mindfulness. You need to read this book on mindfulness. But I was not in any position in the world to be able to even sit down and read a book, let alone
one that said, be calm, be still, stop. That's so ridiculous.
That was not going to happen. So, it was not going to happen. It took 2 years, man. But I'm there, and it took 2 years.
Yeah. No, that's
that conversation with me.
It's not infrequently that I'll sit down and I'll start talking with someone, and they'll say, well, my doctor said for me to come and see you 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and I just wasn't ready. And then, but there comes a point where you are ready, and you're tired of suffering and struggling and those kinds of things, and then it's the right time.
That's fascinating. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for, let's see here.
Changed my life. I appreciate it.
If you were able to say, one thing to someone that was in your situation where you used to be, what would you say to them?
I would say get help. Get help. I mean, the reality is we like to think that we can do this stuff ourselves, and you fight it for years and years. And half the time, you don't even know that you probably even have a problem.
Sure.
You just don't. I mean, for years and years, I never realized I had a problem. But when I went to the hospital and had that attack and everything else, that kind of was a part of me that said, I need some help. So this isn't any better.
Sure.
And I don't have the tools necessary to do it. I go to sleep when I'm tired, and there are nights when I'll sleep all night, and there are nights when I still wake up, but I'm able to fall right back asleep.
Yeah.
And then I'll have the occasional where, I wake up at 3, and I might fall asleep at 4.
Yeah.
But it's not 6 a.m.
Right.
And the kids are getting up, I just want to be ready to go back to sleep.
Right.
So it's sporadic now, and I'm okay with that. I mean,
Yeah.
So.
Does your wife or your kids, do they notice what's different about the way you are with your family now that you're off of these medications and you're able to sleep, normally?
My wife still doesn't know.
Okay.
She still does not know that I've even lowered dosages.
Let alone totally free of them.
So it's been months. I mean, ever since I came here, from the beginning when we started, lowering doses and stuff, she just doesn't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm just kind of. It's not. My mind isn't hesitant, so I'm not in that mindset. It's like, well, I don't want to tell my wife because next week I might be back on it. That's not how I feel.
Yeah.
It's just I haven't really said anything because I hardly think about it anymore. I think when I go upstairs to go to bed, I don't think about taking pills anymore from a mental standpoint. So I just kind of approach it like, it's not really much of a conversation.